Okay, we're learning the Gemara on Chav Chesam with Beis. We're starting from where it says Ikeda Amri Amr Rav Yosef. So in the Mishnah it said when you have a person that's going out to be killed, so Neisnin all of Chumri Chayim and Chumri Mesim, that on one hand we have to say that he was probably killed, and therefore we have to be machmer that he's not alive. On the other hand, there's also you have to be machmer that he may still be alive. Something may have happened and he's still alive. On that, the Gemara before brought here that Rav Yosef said that that's only by a Bezdin Shal Yisrael. By a Bezdin Shal Yisrael, we say that there could be someone is malamet schus on him. It could be malamet schus to the last moment. But by a Goyish court, once they decided that they're killing him, there's nothing's going to happen in between, and therefore he's for sure he's dead. So his wife could go get married, and you don't have to be machmir that he's alive. Here the Gemara brings from Rav Yosef another version that says the exact opposite. So Rav Yosef says, what it says in our Mishnah, that even after you see that he's taken to be executed, but nevertheless you have to be machmir that he's still alive. That's only by a goyish court. When it comes to a person that's taken out to give him a chiyuv misa, so given the nafa clay, dina leketala, once the psak-din was given that he should be killed, kotlile. So we can rely on the fact that they kill him. You don't have to be machmer at all that he may still be alive. Abaye. So Abaye asks Rav Yosef about this. Why are you saying so? Bezdin Shal Yisrael, Nami Efshe, the Chazilei Schusa. Isn't it possible that by the Bezdin of Yidden, you can be Malamet Schus till the very last moment? So maybe someone was Malamet Schus on him. So he answers, Ki Chazilei Zechusa, Mikami Delig Medina. When are they Malamet Schus on him? Before the Gemar Din of this person, before they give down the Psak Din. Basa Gemar Dina Sule Chazilei Schusa. After the Gemar Din, though, there's no being Malamet Schus anymore. What does Gemara mean by this? Rashi explains, it doesn't mean that you can't be Malamet Chus afterwards. What it means is it's very uncommon to be Malamet Chus for him afterwards. So because it's so uncommon, so therefore there's no doubt about this. There's no suffix about this. There are some Mefarshim actually that say that it's not considered to be a suffix mamish, but still you would have to be machmer that she should not go and get married to anybody else, because there may have been a limut chus on him even though it's not common. If she did go and get married to someone, we're going to say that it's not a suffix and she could remain married. But even in this case, she still shouldn't. And the raya that the Mefarshim bring is from the famous Gemara in Yavamis that says that a woman's husband that drowned in Maim Shein Seif, and you don't know if he survived or not. So we say that she can't go get married because it's possible he survived. And that's very not shchiach that a person should survive in Maim Shein Seif. And we're still chayshish for that. So over here also, you should have to be chayshish for that as well. At least l'chatchila. Okay, so but this is according to this version by Yiddish Bezdin. So there's usually no limits chos, but when it comes to a goyish court, so it's possible that there's bribery. So therefore, until the last moment, you never know anything what happened to him. So here the Gemara brings the same inyanim that it said at the end of Daf Chav Ches, but here it says it as a raya to Rav Yosef, because here it's the opposite version of what Rav Yosef said. So shall we say that we have a raya to what Rav Yosef said from the following Mishnah in Makis? Says over there, anytime two Eidim come into a Bezdin, and they testify. We testify regarding this individual. That a Bezdin, that Bezdin there, already paskin that is chayiv misa. Or pliny Eidim. And so were the Eidim that is chayiv misa. So they're testifying that this, and now that what happened was that person ran away from that Bezdin. So the Bezdin never gave him the chayiv misa. So now so this person has to be killed. So what do I see over here? That I'm not going to be chayshish that maybe after that Bezdin paskin that someone was malamet chus. Like Rav Yosef said over here, it's not common that anyone should be malamet chus, so therefore Bezdin will harei yarik, give him misa. So as Gemara, no, there's no raya from there. Dilme b'reach shani. Perhaps this person that ran away, if he ran away, so of course Bezdin is not ming malamet chus on him. But maybe in a regular case, we do have to be concerned for a limut chus. Toshama, I'll bring you another raya to what Rav Yosef said. It says in the Braisa, Shama mi Bezdin Shal Yisrael. You heard from people of a Yiddish Bezdin that said, Shayu Oimrim, Ish Pleni Mace. This person, he died. I should explain before, mace means sometimes they placed a person into a kippah, in a place where he was left without food and he died. Ish Pleni Nerak. Or he heard from a Bezdin that this person was killed. It's one of the Chiyav Mises of Bezdin. Yesiyah Sishtai. They can go and allow my wife to get married. They can If he heard from the executioner of a Goyish court that Ish Pliny Mace, that this person was left to die, or Ish Pliny Nereg, or this person was killed, Al Yasiu Es Ishtai. They should not allow his wife to go and get married. So first the Gemara explains what's the difference here. My Mace or my Nereg. When it says here that he died or he was killed, what does this mean? If you would say that it means that whether the Bezdin or a court is saying about this person that he died or got killed, so the you're saying that by the Yiddish Bezdin or a Goyish court, it's the same thing. It's not the same thing. The Braise is making a distinction between them. Why are you making a distinction? Why regarding a Goyish court are you saying that his wife can't go and get married when someone from the court says that he already died or he already got killed? We know the halacha is when something is being said, not as an official testimony, but it's just being said offhandedly, so then even if a guy says so, we trust this. So there should be no difference between this information being told to us from a Bezdin, from someone from a Bezdin, or someone from a Goyish court. Elalav, says the Gemara, so the pshat on this brayso must be, Meis means Yoitzelomos, not that he died already. Meis means that someone from the Bezdin says that this person was taken to a place where he's going to be left to die. And Venereg means Yoitzelahare, that he was taken out to be killed. Vikatani, and what does it say in this brayso? That Bezdin Shal Yisrael Yasiu Es Ishtai, that by a Bezdin, this is enough information to allow his wife to go and get married. So over here actually see that l'chatchila you could allow her to go and get married. So here we see very strongly how we're not choishish that maybe someone was malamet chus on him. Says the Gemara, no, there's no raya over here to what Rav Yosef said. Lo olam meis mamish v'nerag mamish. When the Brisa says that someone's saying about this man that he died, it means that they're saying that they saw that he actually died and he was actually killed already. Now the so the question is, if they're saying by a person that's coming from a Goyish court, so then am I like? Why would he not be believed to say this? As we said before, if someone is saying something offhandedly, it doesn't matter. Even a guy is also believed. So why shouldn't he be believed? Says the Gemara, not in this case. If a guy, Stam, is saying something in a story, is just sharing in a conversation something, so then I say that we believe him. But if it's someone from the court that's reporting about this, even if he's not saying it as a testimony, but it's possible that he could be lying about this. As Rashi explained before already, maybe he wants to boast about the fact of how powerful his court is, of what they did. So it could be he's just exaggerating and it's a lie. Okay. Continue with the next Mishnah here. The next Mishnah, the next few Mishnahs here, we'll be discussing more halachas b'nigeya to the shlichus of a get. A person is delivering a get. Zok Teilige Mishnah, maybe get Eretz Yisrael, a person that was sent to deliver a get within Eretz Yisrael itself. So as we learned before, in the beginning of the Masechta, when you deliver a get in Eretz Yisrael, you give the get to the Isha, and there's no additional testimony required about the kashrus of the get. V'chola, but now the Shliach got sick. He can't deliver the get. So he can give over the get to a second Shliach to deliver it to the Isha. Not but if the husband says to the Shliach, when you deliver the get to the Isha, I want you to take from her, a certain object that she's holding for me. So then, you can't send this get with someone else to deliver it to the Isha because the husband appointed you to be the shemer on this pekadon that you're going to take from the Isha. You're not allowed to give someone else this pekadon, that someone else should deliver it to the husband. There's a famous shaila here on this Mishnah from Rabbi Kivegi. He says, well, if that's the case, if the husband doesn't want his pekadon to be in someone else's hand, other than the shliach that he appointed to pick it up, what's with the get itself? Why shouldn't we say a similar sweater regarding the get itself? I give you a get. I only trust you not to lose the get and to deliver it to her. How could you appoint the second shliach? Who says the husband b'chalal trusts a second shliach? Kivega talks about it, but in the end he remains with the tzarachi and he doesn't give this answer. Give an answer for it. Some achrayim want to say that you must say that it's sort of a takonas chachamim, that the fact that regarding a get you're allowed to give it over to another shliach, because otherwise it could happen. Person gets sick or there's some aynus that happens and he can't deliver the get. If he's not going to be allowed to give it over to a second shliach, she can stay in a guna. So they were misakin this only by a get, but not by a pekadon. Sagt the Gemara, Omer Rav Kahana said about our Mishnah, Cholot Tanan. It says in our Mishnah that the first shliach got sick only if he got sick or anything similar, like an oinus. So then I say that he's able to give it over to another shliach. Fragt the Gemara, Pshita, isn't this obvious? Cholot Katani. It clearly says in our Mishnah that when could the first shliach appoint the second shliach? Only if he got sick. Why would I think otherwise? Says the Gemara, no, I would think to say, Hu adin avagav deloy chala. Maybe this halacha applies that the first shliach could appoint the second shliach even if he's not sick. When it says in the Mishnah that he got sick, it's just saying that usually, why wouldn't the first shliach fulfill what he's doing? Usually he's only appointing a second shliach because he got sick and he can't make it. Kamash Malon, that's what Rav Kahana is saying, no, you're only allowed to appoint the second shliach if you got sick. And the basis of this halacha is because if a person appoints a shliach to give a get, so unless you get sick, he wants dafka you to give the get. He's makbid. He wants you to give it. So if you got sick, if it's a heinous, then he would agree that you should give it to someone else. But otherwise, you have to give the get yourself. Now, so the Gemara asks on this based on a braise. Who is the Tana of our Mishnah? Hey Chidami. What is our Mishnah talking about? What exactly did the husband tell the shliach? If the husband just simply said to the first shliach, here, deliver the get. He didn't clearly say you deliver the get. He just said, have this get delivered. So then, afagav delay cholanami. So even if the first shliach did not get sick, he should be allowed to give it over to a second shliach because we see that the Baal was not makbid that dafke, he should give it. If the husband specified clearly you deliver the get, then afilu cholanami loy. So then even if he got sick, too bad. The husband does not want anyone else to deliver the get other than you. So why is the Mishnah saying if you're sick, you can give it to someone else? Now there's another opinion about this, as we'll see right here in a second, in the Braise. If our Mishnah follows the opinion of Rav Shimon Gamliel, afilu chala nami loy. Rav Shimon Gamliel says, regardless of what the husband said, even if he never specified you bring the get, it doesn't make a difference. Rav Shimon Gamliel holds that the first shliach is the only one that could deliver the get. Even if he got sick, he can't give it to someone else. So where do we see this? The Tanya we learned in the Braise. So the Braise says, if all the husband said is, have this get delivered for my wife, then if you don't want to bring it, you can just give it to a second shliach, even if he didn't get sick. If the husband said, you bring this get to my wife, you can't give it to anyone else. And it seems like what the Braise is saying is, even if he got sick, he said he wants dafka, you should give it the get. He's makbid. You can't give it to anyone else. Rav Shimon Gamliel says, Benkach or Benkach ein ashliach ois shliach. It doesn't make a difference what language the husband used. The first shliach could never appoint a second shliach. Period. No such a thing. Taisus here actually says you must say, even according to Rav Shimon Gamliel, there is a case where a shliach could appoint a second shliach because there's a beferish Gemara in Kiddushin that learns from a pasuk that a first shliach could appoint a second shliach. Says Taisus, according to Rav Shimon Gamliel, the only time he could is if the husband will clearly tell him. And if you can't bring the get, or if you don't want to bring the get, then I allow you. I'm not makbid, you can bring someone else. But if he doesn't specify that clearly, you can't appoint the second shliach. Says the Gemara here, a few answers, who the Tana of our Mishnah is. If you want, I'll tell you, that the case of our Mishnah is that all the husband said is, bring the get, and he didn't say clearly, you bring the get. But for who? The chala. This that it says here in the Braise that he could appoint someone else, the pshat in the Braise is only if he got sick, even though the Braise doesn't spell that out, but that's what it means, like it says in our Mishnah. Or if you want, I can tell you, it says in our Mishnah that only if you got sick, you can give it over to a second shliach. The case in our Mishnah is that the husband told him, you bring the get. If he told him, you bring the get, wasn't he makbid? But v'chalashani, well, yeah, he was makbid, he wants the first shliach to bring the get, but not if it's impossible. If he got sick, he'll be maskim, and that's the pshat in the Braise as well, even though it doesn't spell it out. Or the third answer, you can say that Rav Shimon Gamliel, our Mishnah is Rav Shimon Gamliel. So even though it seemed like Rav Shimon Gamliel said you can't appoint anybody other than yourself, the first shliach, but v'chalashani, Rav Shimon Gamliel will agree when the first shliach got sick that you could appoint the second shliach. Okay, here the Gemara now has a stira on the din of our Mishnah. So Tanan, in our Mishnah it says, maybe get Beret Yisrael v'cholo, areizem mishalcha biyad acher. You could send a get with another person. V'raminu, I'll ask you a stira from a Mishnah later in the Masechta. Here the Mishnah says, Omar l'shnayim. The husband said to two people, Tnu get lishti. Give a get for my wife. or he said to 3 people, Kisvu get utu write a get and give it to my wife. Right, so regarding the 2, he did not clearly say write the get. He just said, give the get to my wife. But when he said give the get to his wife, that includes both to write the get and to give the get. And then by shloisha, he clearly said kisvu get and tun ishti. So then what's the halach in both of these cases? Harei elu yichtevu v'yitnu. So they have to write the get themselves and give it to his wife. You can't appoint anybody else to write this get for him. Right? So like I said, Rashi explains, we'll see in the Gemara later, the mission over there later, that there is a difference between 2 and 3, whether you say tunu or kisvu tunu. Okay, I'm not going to get into that arichas over here now, but regarding the pshat of the Gemara over here, what do you see? So the Gemara asks, inu in. So you see over here that only these individuals, that he tells them, they have to be the ones to write the get and give it to her. Aval shliach lo, you can't tell someone else to write the get. Dafka, they have to write the get for her. So the question is, why can't they appoint a second shliach, like it says in our Mishnah? Omar Abaye, so Abaye answers, Hassam over there, since it's talking about a husband that appointed these people to write the get for him, time and the reason is, Mishum Bizayin the Bal, because the husband will be embarrassed about the fact that he wants to give his wife a get and he can't write the get himself. So that itself is embarrassing for him. So the fact that he appoints people to write the get for him, he's comfortable with the fact that they're going to write the get for him. But he doesn't need everybody else to know the fact that he can't write a get. So he doesn't want anyone else to be appointed for this. So there's a kepeda. But over here, he's just sending someone to give a get, not to write a get. So to give a get, so if you can't give the get, so then someone else can give the get. So over here, he's not makbid. Rava says, no, completely different shot. What we learn on that Mishnah, that when he tells people to write a get, they can't give the get to someone else, mishum de mili ninu. The shlichus, to write a get, is just words. Umili loy mimsar al shliach. And these words cannot be given over to a shliach. So Rav is machadash a new concept in the halacha of shlichus. When you appoint a shliach to give a get, so you have a physical get in your hands. And he's giving you this get, and now you take the place of the husband, you become connected to the husband, that you can give the get. So if you take the place of the husband, you could appoint someone else. You can appoint a second shliach, just like the husband himself can. But if you don't have any get in your hands, b'chlal, the husband gave you a mission to go and write the get and then to give the get. So right now, all you have is the job to write the get. It's just mili. So you're not yet in the place of the husband. Until you don't have that get to give to the isha, so you're not yet a shluch shloden kamaisa. So how could you appoint a second person to be a shliach in your place? That's the hezbollah that you see over here from Rashi. I'm giving you the hezbollah over here that Achreinim say over here in this concept of mili lemimsar and l'shliach. This is a concept that's brought in many places.
After writing?
After you have already the get in your hands, it's not mili anymore, right? It's not going to be mili anymore. There's a very big discussion about this inyan of mili lemimsar and l'shliach. There's a couple of pshatim and rishonim about it. Sagt the Gemara, Mai benayu. What is the difference between these two answers of Abaye and Rava? Says the Gemara, Ike benayu, the difference is shliach matana. When you send a shliach to go and write a shtar matana for somebody. So here, Rashi explains, the nafkamina is regarding writing a shtar matana, according to Abaye, that the only reason you can't appoint a second shliach is because it's embarrassing for the husband. He's supposed to write the get. By a shtar matana, you're giving the matana, you don't have to write the shtar matana adara, but the recipient writes the shtar. So there's nothing embarrassing about it. But if the reason is mili lemimsar on the shliach, so then if you were told to go and have a shtar matana written, so then this is also mili, this is just words. You can't give it over to another shliach to do this. The Gemara plukte the Rav Shmuel. Rav Shmuel argued about this. Rav Ama matana eino keget. A matana does not have the same halacha as a get. And Shmuel Ama matana harehi keget. And Shmuel said no, a matana has the same halacha of a get. And we apply this halacha of mili lemimsar on the shliach, and it applies by a matana just like a get.
So you could say they're holding the same thing. Only before writing, but after writing, the same thing. They both can make shluchim.
And the chanami, yeah, the you're right.
Huh? After he wrote the get.
After he wrote the get. Okay, I hear.
Then
Maybe.
it's not the case, because the case is before he wrote
Before he wrote it. Right. Okay, Ken Zayin.
Okay.
The next thing it said in the Mishnah was, he sent a shliach, but he also told the shliach he has a second job. Not only to give her the get, but also to pick up a certain object from her. So then you can't appoint a second shliach. Amar Reish Lakish. So Reish Lakish says the pshat in the Mishnah here is as follows: Kan Shona Rebbe Here, the only Chiddush in Mishnah that Rabbi is teaching us here is that Ein Hashoyel Rashoy Lahashal. That if you borrow something from someone, you can't lend it to someone else to use. You're the one that he allowed to use it. You can't give it to someone else. And same Ve'en Haseicher Rashoy Lahaskel. You rent something, so you have the rights to use it. You can't rent it out to someone else. But the main point that Reish Lakish is trying to say over here is that the only chiddush in the Mishnah over here is regarding you're not allowed to appoint another shliach because he's not allowed to take the chayfetz. The Mashalech wants you to take the chayfetz. But regarding the kashrus of the get, if you appoint another shliach, so then the get will be a good get. That's not the issue over here. The only issue is the fact that the chayfetz is not allowed to be in the other person's possession. That's what Reish Lakish is saying, pshat in the Mishnah. Okay, now Amalei Rabbi Yechanan, so Rabbi Yechanan argues in this, and he says, no, that's not the chiddush of the Mishnah. The fact that if you borrow something or rent something, you're not allowed to give it to someone else to use, that even children understand. It's pashut from svara, that you're the one that was trusted to use it and not anyone else. That's not the chiddush of a Mishnah. Elo, rather, our Mishnah here is coming to say, Zimnin, the Gittin Amalei Have. Sometimes, if you are going to appoint someone else to deliver the get and pick up this object, so not only did you do something wrong by allowing another person to take the object and not you, but the get also will not take effect. Again, Zimnin the Gittin Amalei Have. Why? The Nase Ka'oime, because this would be compared like to a case where a person says, Sha'amalei, the person says to his shliach to go divorce his wife, and he tells him, Al Tegarsha Ele Bebayis. You should only divorce her on the first floor of the house. And Vigir Shabalia, he gave her the get on the attic or the second floor. Or he told Al Tegarsha Ele Biyamin. You should only give the get to her with your right hand. Vigir Shabismail, and he divorces her with the left hand. So he clearly said, this is what your shlichus is. If you don't do the shlichus exactly the way he said, you're not a shlich for the Gedushin to be done this way. So over here as well, sometimes we say that if the husband said that go and pick up this chayfetz when you're giving her the get, that's the whole get, the Gedushin is contingent upon that. If you don't pick up, if you're not the one that picks up this chayfetz, so then the Gedushin itself will not take effect. So now the Gemara here says, here you have the machlokes between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yechanan. So what's basically the machlokes here? Reish Lakish says the shlichus to pick up the chayfetz and the shlichus to give the get are sort of two separate things. Right? So if you appointed a second shliach to pick up the chayfetz, so you did something wrong, that he's not allowed to have that chayfetz in his hands. But as far as the Gedushin is concerned, it doesn't affect the get that you give. Rabbi Yechanan says, no, it's dependent on each other. But the Emes says, even Rabbi Yechanan used the expression zimnin, not always. Sometimes you could say that if you appoint someone else to pick up the chayfetz, then it'll affect the Gedushin, that the get will not be a Gedushin. So the Gemara explains as follows. The kulam, everybody will agree to what Reish Lakish basically said. Hey, if when you appointed the second shliach to go and pick up the chayfetz and give the get. So the woman, she went out to the shliach and she gave him immediately the chayfetz. And v'hada shakla minei gita. And only afterwards did she take the get from him. Did she get the get from him? So then, kulam lepligi the gita gitam al yahave. In such a case, everybody will agree that the get is a good get. Right? The husband wanted you to pick up the chayfetz first and then give the get, and that's what happened. The second shliach did the exact same thing. He didn't change from what the husband wanted. So true, there's something over here that shouldn't have happened. The chayfetz is not allowed to be in the hands of the second shliach, and it's supposed to be in the hands of the first shliach. But in such a case, we divide the Gedushin from the pekadin. The pekadin is in the takia was in the hands of the wrong person, but because the pekadin was given first, so once you give the get, so the get itself will take effect. It's like two separate things. But kipligi, when is there an argument between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yechanan? Heiche da amalei shkoil mina chayfetz v'hada havla gita. If the husband says, "I want you first to pick up the chayfetz, and then to take the and then to give the get to her," that is. And v'azal iyu, and now this shliach went, whether it's the first shliach or the second shliach, v'yav la gita, and he gave her the get first. V'hada shakla mina chayfetz. Only afterwards did he take the chayfetz. So over here, there's a problem. You changed the order of what the husband wanted. Rabbi Yechanan paisel by v'kol sheken b'shluchai. Rabbi Yechanan says that even the first shliach that did it in the opposite order of what the husband said, the get will be paisel. And for sure, if you appoint a second shliach, so now not only did you take it out of order, but it's in the hands of a second shliach that you never appointed him to have this chayfetz in his hands. All right, so Rashi explains, why did the husband say that he wants you to take the chayfetz first? because he wants to get that chayfetz from her. And he specifically said, I want the chayfetz before you give her the get, because he wants to make sure he's going to get this chayfetz back, and he's ready for her to remain an aguna, not to get the get until she gives back the chayfetz. So if you do it in the opposite order, you give the get and then you take the chayfetz, you didn't do what the husband wanted. Right?
She wants to keep the chayfetz, right?
She may want to keep the chayfetz. The husband wants to make sure he's getting the chayfetz, so he's wants you to withhold the get until you get the chayfetz. So Rashi explains that's what Rabbi Yechanan was saying before in the pshat of the Mishnah. That's why a first shliach should not appoint a second shliach, because the second shliach might not be medayik in this. He might not take the chayfetz before he gives the get. So therefore, you can't. It's going to be a psul in the gedishin as well, not just a problem that the chayfetz is in the wrong person's hand. But Reish Lakish says, if the first shliach changed the order of what the husband said, it's still the gedishin, it's still kosher, and the kosher can buy. So b'shlucha here means even a second shliach actually. Even if you sent a second shliach, it'll be kosher, and for sure the first shliach as well. In other words, Reish Lakish holds, even if the husband says in this lashon, first take the chayfetz and then get the get then give her the get, he wasn't being makpid. He's just saying how usually a person would do it, but he wasn't being makpid about this. So the fact that you did it in the opposite order doesn't matter. The fact that you now have the chayfetz in your hands, you fulfill the shlichus.
Yeah, because he wouldn't know. He wouldn't necessarily know which order these shliachim.
Well, after the fact, yeah, it doesn't matter to
He
him.
would have to come back and give it to him.
Correct.
And tell him, but
Yes,
in
sort
the
of.
meantime,
Correct. But you're right. But Rabbi Yechanan holds the Baal was makpid about this. He wanted Dafka to. But Rabbi Reish Lakish says no, he wasn't makpid about this.
But Rabbi Yechanan also, the first thing about change also is not good.
Again,
Rabbi Yechanan, the first shliach changed also is not good.
Rabbi Yechanan, yeah, even the first shliach, correct, even the first shliach, and that's the reason why you shouldn't give it over to a second shliach, because the second shliach might not understand exactly. He didn't hear directly from the husband how he was makpid, so the second shliach might not do it properly. If a person is delivering a get in Medina Sayyam, Chutz La'aretz, from Chutz La'aretz Eretz Yisrael. So now over here you deliver a get, you have to testify b'fanei nichta b'fanei nechtam, as we learned in the beginning of the Masechta. Now v'chola, this shliach got sick, he can't deliver the get. So what does he do? Oise shliach bebezdin, he can appoint another shliach in a bezdin u'mishalcha, and he could send the get with a second shliach. And now v'oimel lefneim, he says in front of this bezdin b'fanei nichta b'fanei nechtam. The get was written and signed in front of me. Okay, so now he already said the testimony, and now the bezdin that heard the testimony could testify. It could send the second shliach. And ve'ein shliach achrein tzarich sheyem b'fanei nichta b'fanei nechtam. The second shliach will not have to say b'fanei nichta b'fanei nechtam. He can't. He doesn't know. He wasn't there. Eloime shliach bezdin ani. All he has to say is, I was appointed by the bezdin. Once he was appointed by the bezdin, we can rely on the fact that the bezdin did everything properly, and they got the testimony from the first shliach. Sagt die Gemara, Amru le Rabbanan la Avimi berei de Rabbavo. The Rabbanan said to Avimi, the son of Rabbavo, Boi minei mi Rabbavo. Ask from your father Rabbavo the following question. Shliach, the shliach. Mashvi shliach, the second shliach. The shliach or the first shliach. Could he appoint a third shliach? Oiloi, or not? This halacha that we say that you could appoint another shliach, does this mean only a second shliach, or does it go a third, a fourth, and further on? Amalahu, so Avimi says to them, I don't have to ask my father this shaila. Yeah, they have no reason to ask such a shaila. Midiktani, look at the language of the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Ein ashliach ha'acharein, that the last shliach does not have to say b'fanei nichta b'fanei nechtam. The Mishnah does not use the lashon, the second shliach. It says Ein ashliach ha'acharein, the klal the mashvi shliach. So I see that the second could appoint a third and further on, and there could be a last shliach, even more than two. Elo kiti bailuchu, the shaila that you should ask, that I should be asking my father is as follows. Ki mashvi shliach bebezdin or yafilu shalei bebezdin. When the second shliach wants to appoint a third shliach, does he have to do that in a bezdin as well, or even without a bezdin? The first shliach, when he appoints a second shliach, that has to be done in a bezdin. He has to testify b'fanei nichta b'fanei nechtam. But by the second shliach, if he's appointing a third shliach, does he have to do it in a bezdin as well? So when the third shliach will come to deliver the get, and he'll say, it was done in a bezdin, so then we can rely that we know this get comes from Chutz La'aretz. It's only then could we rely on the fact that it was done right, or no, since he does not have to say b'fanei nichta b'fanei nechtam, so he doesn't have to do it in a bezdin. So Amrulei, so now the Rabbanan, once they were told to pay attention to the words of the Mishnah, so they now said, Holami Bailon, this we don't have any shaila about. So Midiktani, they said, look in the words of the Mishnah, Ela oime shliach bezdin ani. that the shliach that's giving the get to the isha has to say shliach bezdin ani. So they said, look, so shliach bezdin ani means no matter who it is, the third, fourth shliach that's giving the get to the isha will have to say shliach bezdin ani. So it always has to be appointed in a bezdin. Gemara brings another version of the story. Rav Nachman b'Yitzchak masni hachi. Rav Nachman b'Yitzchak, so he had the story in the following version. Amru le Rabban la vimi b'rei de Rabavo. The Rabban said to Avimi, the son of Rabavo, boy me name Rabavo, ask your father, shliach the shliach. When you have a second shliach that's appointing a third shliach, ki mashvi shliach, when he appoints a third shliach, the bezdin, does that have to be in a bezdin? Or shalei bezdin? Since the second shliach is not saying b'fana nichtav, so it does not have to be in a bezdin. So this is the shaila that he told him to ask his father. Amalahu, so Avimi says to them, mashvi shliach. Why don't you even ask a shaila, could the second shliach at all appoint a third shliach? How do you know about that? Could he appoint a second shliach? Amrulei, so the Rabbanan answered to him, Holoi kami ba'ilam. This we don't have a shaila about it. None, because the Mishnah says, Eina shliach achrain, so it uses the term achrain, miklal, the shliach, mashvi shliach. So I clearly see that a second shliach could appoint a third shliach. Eliki kami ba'ilam, bebezn, shalei bebezn. Our shaila is, though, if the second shliach has to appoint him in a bezn or not. So Amalahu, so on this, Avimi answered, Hanami loited ba'iluchu, this as well should not be a shaila. Diktani, elo, oime, shliach beznani. The Mishnah clearly says that the final shliach that gives the get to the Isha has to say that I am a shliach from the bezdin. Omar Rabbe, now Rabbe says regarding this halacha of one shliach appointing another and many shluchim, shliach be'eretz Yisrael, oise kam shluchim. A shliach that's delivering a get in Eretz Yisrael, and he doesn't have to say b'fan nechta b'fan nechtam. So one shliach could appoint another and another and another. And it doesn't have to be done in a bezdin at all, because you don't have to testify b'fan nechta b'fan nechtam. Amar Ravashi said, in Mei Sirishain, batlu kulan. So when you have here many different shluchim, so if the first shliach passes away, so then the rest of the shluchim are all going to be batul. So even if the husband is still alive, but because the second shliach was appointed by the first shliach, so if the first shliach dies, so then the second shliach can't fulfill his shlichus anymore. So Mar Baravashi says about this, Ha da'abe the katnusihi. This that my father here said is he must have said this when he was young, because this halacha is not true. Because ilu meiz bal, who's the one that really matters if he's alive or not? Only the husband himself. If the husband passed away, midi mashasha is buhu. Is there anything left to any of the shlichus of any of the shluchim? Kulu mikayach man kasu. Where is everyone? Who's everyone really representing? Who are they connected to? Mikayach the bal kasu. They are all connected to the husband that they're delivering the get for. If the husband is still alive, so any of the later shluchim, even a third, fourth, fifth shliach, so they can still fulfill the shlichus. Less ilabal. If the husband is not alive, less nulakulo. So then none of the other shluchim can be any shliach. So Mar Baravashi is saying it doesn't depend on whether the first shliach passed away. It depends on whether the husband is alive or not. There's a sikha from the Rebbe Barichas about here, this piece of the Gemara. And the Rebbe there explains that the way Rav Ashi said this halacha, and Mar Baravashi said, he said it when he was young, he was giving a certain independence to a shliach, that a shliach that accepts a get, so now that he becomes a shliach, so sort of the bailus of this gedushin is in his hands. So if he passes away, so no other shliach can be a shliach anymore. So Mar Baravashi is saying is, no, that's not what shlichus is. The shliach is totally bottled to the original mishaleach. If there's no mishaleach, there's no shliach anymore. There's no such a thing that now will depend on the first shliach. That's in general the nekuda. The Rebbe explains this by Richa there, Richa in the Sikha.
Transferring the bias to another shliach. He's got it already, surely, no?
Who? The first shliach?
The second one has already got the shlichus.
Correct, but he could only fulfill his shlichus if the husband is still alive, because the idea of shlichus is that you bottle to a mishaleach, not that you're independently now have the power to do a gedushin. If there's no first shliach, a mishaleach anymore, so then there's nothing. The shliach is an extension of the first mishaleach. He's bottled to the first mishaleach. Otherwise, there's nothing left.
The shluchim therefore have to have them.
Correct. Yeah. So the Rebbe there speaks parichas about the saying of there, the union of shlichus. Okay, Chelik Lamed Gimel Parshas Kairach. Take a look. Okay, let's go weiter in the Gemara. Ahu Gavre, there was a story with an individual. The Shadala Gittin Lidabisub. He sent a get with a shliach for his wife. I'm a shliach, but the shliach says, I don't know who your wife is, so I'm not sure I'll be able to give her the get. So the husband says, if so, zil yave la Abba bar minyaimi. So you know what? Go and you'll find Abba bar minyaimi. Him, you probably know who he is. He's a famous person. Give him the get. The iu yadallah. He knows who my wife is. And v'leiz v'leiz v'ne'allah. And Abba bar minyaimi, he will go and give the get to my wife. So also the shliach came v'liyashkach la Abba bar minyaimi. He didn't find Abba bar minyaimi. But who did he find? Ashkechel Rabba Vo, Rabba Chanina bar Papa, Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. He found these three Amiroim. And the Yasiv, Rav Safra Gabayu. And Rav Safra was sitting with them. So Amrulei, so these three Amiroim said to the Shliach, Mesoy Miloch Kamedidan. So instead of giving the get to Abba bar Binyaimi, give us the get. The Chiyesi Abba bar Binyaimi. So then when Abba bar Binyaimi will come, Nesvinu Lei, V'leis V'leis V'nela. And then we'll give it over to Abba bar Binyaimi and he'll give her the get. That's what they said. So basically what they were saying is, you're going to give us the get, you'll testify for us, b'fana nichta, b'fana nechtam. This was a get that was being brought from Chutz La'aretz, and then we'll give it over to Abba bar Minyaimi to deliver the get. Amalu Rav Safra asked them this, but here this person is a shliach that was not appointed to divorce the wife. He was just appointed to give it over to Abba bar Minyaimi. So he's not taking the place of the husband with this get, that he could not give it over to someone else to give the get to the Isha. By a regular shliach, that's a real shliach for Gedishin. So first shliach could appoint a second shliach, a third shliach. But over here, he just has this get in his hand that he has to give over to Abba bar Minyaimi to give the get. The husband right away said that you're not the shliach l'Gedishin because you don't recognize my wife. Okay, so Abba bar Minyaimi will be that shliach l'Gedishin, but you're just sort of in between to give the get to Abba bar Minyaimi. He's not even a real shliach b'chlal. Some Rishonim say that the question of the Gemara is also how could he testify b'fana nichta b'fana nechtam? That whole testimony is only shaykh to a shliach of Gedishin, but he's not really a shliach for Gedishin. This question the Gemara asks over here is similar to the point the Gemara said on Amar Aleph about mili le'mimsar on the shliach. You're not really yet a real shliach over here. You're just here to deliver the get to Abba bar Minyaimi. Abba bar Minyaimi is the real shliach. So how could have these Amiroim said, give us the get? So Amar Rava said about this interaction here, Kapchinu Rav Safra l'tlasa Rabbanan smuchi. Rav Safra knocked off the feet of these three Rabbanan that were smuchi, that knew all the halachas, but nevertheless he disproved what they were suggesting to do. But Rav Ashi says, no, b'may kapchinu. Why are you saying such a strong thing that he cut off their feet, that he showed them that they made a mistake? Mi ka'amale Abba bar Minyaimi v'loy at. Did the husband say, I only want Abba bar Minyaimi to be the shliach for the Gedishin and not you? Why did he say give it to Abba bar Minyaimi? Because the shliach said he doesn't recognize his wife. Originally he did want the shliach to be the shliach for the Gedishin. Only after he said, I don't recognize her, so he said, okay, give it to Abba bar Minyaimi. But in essence, he didn't take back the fact that he appointed him to be a shliach as well. So therefore, these chachamim were right when they said that he can give them over the get and say b'fan nichta b'fan nechtam. Another version over here in this discussion here between Rava and Rav Ashi, who was right. Ikidamri, others said, Amar Rava came and said, Kapchinu Rav Safra l'tlasi Rabbanan smuchi b'tousa. This, what Rav Safra said against these three Amiroim, that he cut off their feet, he said that they're making a mistake, that the shliach can't give them the get, it was a mistake. Like the Svara that the Gemara just said, because really he is a shliach for the Gedishin. The Baal is not makpid. But Amar Rav Ashi, so according to this version, Rav Ashi said, no, Maitu, so why did he make a mistake? Maika Amalei, what did the Mishalech, what did the husband say? Abba bar Binyaimi v'loyat. We understand that once the husband saw that he does not recognize his wife, he's saying only Abba bar Binyaimi should be the shliach and not you. So therefore, how could you give over the get to anyone else? You're not even a shliach l'Gedishin. You just have to give over that get to Abba bar Binyaimi. Okay, the Gemara brings another story. Ahu Gavre, there was a story with an individual, the Shadale, Gittin the Bisu, he sent a get for his wife. Amalei l'shliach, but he made a condition. He says to the shliach, Le'teisven ne'Allah, do not give the get to my wife at Tlasin Yaimin, until 30 days. Now, itnis begoy Tlasin Yaimin. Within those 30 days, so a noinus happened, he got sick or whatever it is, and he can't deliver the get. Asla kamei de Rave, so he came to Rave to ask him what should he do. Amar Rave, so Rave says, so the Mishnah said that a shliach that got sick, so he's an einus, he can appoint a second shliach. So hai nami onesu. So this individual, it's within 30 days, and right now there's an einus, so he can't go. So he can give over the get to someone else to deliver the get. Amalei misayir milech kamei didon. Give over your get in front of us. The labasat lasin yaimin mashvin shliach v'yavalei na'alei. And then when 30 days comes, we'll appoint another shliach, and then that shliach will give the get. That's how Rava paskin. Oh, malei rabbanon l'Rava. So the Chachamim there asked Rava about this. How could you do this? V'hashliach shaloi nitten legerishin hu. Within the 30 days, he's not yet a real shliach. He can't give over his shlichus to anyone else. He doesn't take the place of the husband yet, because there's a condition that's holding him up of giving the get at this point. Only after 30 days is he a real shliach, and then he can give it over to someone else. Amalahu, but Rava argued. Rava said, no. Kivin de labasat lasi yoimim matzi megarish. Since he was already given the power now that after 30 days he could divorce his wife, so therefore he is considered to be a shliach that has the power of gerishin, and therefore he can give that shlichus over to someone else even within 30 days. Okay, but now the Gemara finishes off here this inyan with a side question about this. But when you are affected Gemara v'leich Hashem epayis, and when you get a shlichus from a husband to give a get after 30 days, so even if you're a shliach, and even if we just said you can give over the shliach to someone else, but there's another concern here. Maybe within those 30 days, the husband appeased his wife. And maybe the husband actually lived with his wife in between. We learned before a few times that a get yashon, a get that you wrote for your wife, but it wasn't given right away, so we have to be concerned that maybe the husband lived with his wife in between, and then there's a gzeira that you can't give the get anymore. So why aren't we concerned about that over here? So, did we not learn in the Mishnah, if a person says, a person says, here, this is the get for my wife that should take effect now, but only on the condition that I don't come for 12 months, if I don't return for 12 months. And he passed away within 12 months. So so the condition is fulfilled. He's not coming. Get. So then the condition was fulfilled and it's a get. But the question was asked, why aren't we concerned that maybe the husband came and he appeased his wife? And some actually say what the Gemara is asking is not only the fact that it's a get yashon, but the point is he may have actually came and appeased her and took off the t'nai. Maybe originally he made it t'nai, but maybe he came in between and took off the t'nai. So v'neichesh shem apayis. Okay, 1 second. At this point I just said about take off the t'nai. Okay, let's leave that. But the point the Gemara is asking is that if he came in between, so he appeased her and maybe he lived with her, so it's a get yashon. That's the shaila over here. V'omer Rabbe bar Rav Huna. So Rabbe bar Rav Huna asked about explained this. That is, Hachi Oma Abba Mori Mishmei de Rav. Abba Mori said in the name of Rav, Ba'omer Nemenes Alai. Loima Shalebasi. The only time that the husband can give the get to the wife is if the husband said she is going to be believed to testify and say that I never arrived in between. Even if I'm going to come and argue later that I came in between, doesn't make any difference. The husband is going to be, the woman that is going to be believed to say that I did not come. Only if the husband made clearly such a condition, then you can give the get after 12 months. Rashi over here explains that this whole discussion over here in the Gemara is only in a case where the husband gives a specific time frame, 30 days or 12 months, then we could be concerned maybe the husband came in between and appeased her. But if a person sends, you might ask, if a person sends a get any time from overseas, how could you ever deliver a get from overseas? Maybe the husband in between came and he appeased her. So Rashi says no, because over there's no time frame. So therefore the husband is not going to come in between. Because he's going to say to himself, well, I sent the shliach ahead of me. So the shliach probably already came before me. So over there we're not concerned about it. But over here, when there's a time frame of 30 days or of 12 months, why aren't we concerned that maybe the husband came in between? And the Gemara Taka says we are. And the only time that we're allowed to bring this get and give it to her is if the husband made a specific condition that the woman will be believed to say that he did not come. So this is a question on Rava. How could Rava say regarding this shliach that's delivering the get in this time frame of 30 days that you give the get to me and I'll give it to her? So the Gemara says, Ichsef. Rava Taka got embarrassed because of this question. He didn't have an answer. But the Gemara says, L'soifik gloi milsa. In the end, it was revealed that Rava's psaktim was correct. The arusa havoy. That she was not fully married yet. That she was only an arusa. And if she was only an arusa, there's no concern that the husband came and was living with her in between. Amar Rava. So Rava said, now that we know that she's only an arusa, im amru b'nesua, yaimru ba'arusa, this concern that the husband may come and in between and live with her, that's only if he was fully married to her. But by an arusa, where he wasn't living with her at all, we're not concerned about this. Amar Rava. Okay, so that's the conclusion of the Gemara. But then Rava said another thing, but ha vadai kami boyalan. This shaila, though, I do have regarding a first shliach appointing a second shliach, Kimashvi Bezdin Shliach Befonov, Aishalei b'fanav. When the Bezdin appoints the second shliach, does the second shliach have to be standing there? When the first shliach says b'fana nichtav, b'fana nachtam, he has to hear him saying b'fana nichtav, b'fana nachtam, and then the Bezdin appoints the second shliach, or not? As long as the Bezdin heard it, it's enough for the second shliach to deliver the get. Hada pashta, and then Rava answered this halacha as well, and he said, Bein b'fanav, bein shaloi b'fanav, the second shliach that takes the get from the first shliach, whether he was there when the first shliach gave it to the bezdin or not, it doesn't make a difference. And sholchu mitam, the same halacha was sent from there, from Eretz Yisrael, bein b'fanav, bein shaloi b'fanav, whether in front of the bezdin, whether not in front of the bezdin, the second shliach could be appointed to deliver the get.